Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to make a quick video before it hits Christmas, just to let you know what's been going on with my health. As some of you know, I've been working for a really long time trying to shift serious adrenal dysfunction, low cortisol, and decades of candida infection. I had really good results with liver flushing. I still think liver flushing is the single most important protocol you could follow to dramatically revolutionize your health, especially if you have a chronic health condition. I know people who've done sort of 200 liver flushes and completely changed their lives and are now living with amazing energy and feelings of well-being, and that's a permanent state for them, and I still intend on getting there. I had done 48 liver flushes, but I was making quite slow progress, and unfortunately I had to stop because I was flushing and nothing was coming out at all, and my symptoms were getting worse, and I discovered that it was because I had the decades of candida infection and gut dysbiosis had formed nasty colonies of sticky film called biofilm, which had lodged itself into the liver ducts and was stopping stones from coming out. So long story short, I've had to knock liver flushing on the head and find some other way of tackling the candida in my liver so that it can loosen, come out, and then I can resume the liver flushes. One thing I sort of was reading about shortly after we moved about 6 weeks ago to sunny Folkestone, although it's not been so sunny recently. It's been really wet and drizzly and not very nice, but we're living by the sea now, which is going to be lovely when the weather clears up. But one thing I was reading about in my sort of desperate search really to think about what I could do to help myself was the carnivore diet. There are loads of videos on YouTube about the carnivore diet, so I'm not going to kind of go into that in great detail here, but I was initially attracted to it because it seems to be one of those kind of last ditch diets, and a kind of extreme diet to help people for whom other diets, you know, just don't work, they don't do the business. The GAPS diet, you know, vegan diets, ketogenic diet. I did the GAPS diet myself for 5 years and really didn't get anywhere with it. But I was reading about Michaela Peterson, the daughter of Jordan Peterson, who had a serious autoimmune condition called rheumatoid arthritis. And I think by the age of 18 or something, she'd had like numerous joint replacements, and she was living with constant pain, but also crippling depression and anxiety. And she decided to follow the carnivore diet and has had amazing success. I think almost, if not entirely, complete remission of her autoimmune symptoms, plus the depression and anxiety is lifted. So I thought, well, I'd give it a go really and just see what happens. So I've been doing it for about 5 weeks now. The first 3 weeks were really difficult. I was pretty much 90% compliant. I was having I was having some mushrooms occasionally, some avocado, some olives. That was about it. I became kind of more compliant during those 3 weeks. Had some sugar withdrawal, some inflammatory aching like the flu, which is kind of, you know, quite a common thing, like they call it keto flu. Which is just, you know, your body withdrawing from sugar really. And quite quickly things started to improve. I found my sleep started to get better, and in the mornings I was really finding it hard to wake up, which funnily enough, when you're at the early stages of adrenal fatigue or adrenal dysfunction, is something that sort of people complain about, but actually when you get into the later stages of adrenal dysfunction, which is what I've got, you feel wired all the time. You don't sort of feel relaxed or sluggish, and actually feeling relaxed and sluggish is a good sign. So I was starting to feel like that, sort of really relaxed in the morning, not able to get up out of bed, which was really unusual for me. But I found it really, really difficult to stick to. I was having horrible cravings. I was feeling quite strung out, quite ratty during the daytime. And so I thought, well, I started to kind of have a look at the work of Ray Peat again, listen to some podcasts by Danny Roddy, and I was thinking about maybe trying to reintroduce some plant food. And what's really interesting is that I introduced, on 2 separate occasions, I introduced a small amount of cooked carrots and a small amount of cooked potato on both occasions. Particularly the potato absolutely slayed me for about 24 hours. I was in terrible, terrible pain, awful wind, bloating. Oh, it was just terrible. And then actually I got similar symptoms with the carrot, not so bad, but I was just like, okay, I really don't want to go back to this, because it was just absolutely, couldn't do anything. I couldn't work, I was just in bed actually after the potato incident. And so, but I just thought, I maybe there's something in the idea that, Ray Peat says, well, you can, the thing about sugar versus starch is that you can, if you introduce introduce sugars, they don't ferment lower down in the gut. There's not much for the gut to sort of feed on. It gets absorbed and digested higher up in the the stomach and the small intestine. So I thought, well, I'll have a go with just a small amount of fruit. And the idea Ray Peat stresses is that for some people, starch and fibre causes so many problems. If you've got gut dysbiosis, it causes so much fermentation and gas and gastric distress, that you can't really have any raw plant food at all. So I thought, okay, well, I'll cook a little bit of apple and with a little bit of pear peeled. And actually that was quite gentle. So I just had a little bit of pear, a little bit of apple and some coconut milk. And that really seemed to hit the spot. It didn't cause me any gastric distress. So I have expanded the carnivore diet, and now I'm just eating meat, eggs and fish as the sort of 80% of my calories. But I've also introduced some dark chocolate again, which seems to be okay, and some cooked fruit and some coconut milk, and bananas, and that's kind of it. But the good news is I'm still getting the benefits of the carnivore diet. One really interesting thing, quite dramatic, has been a lifting of depression and anxiety, to quite a remarkable extent. I just seem to be a bit more relaxed, a bit happier, less stressed out, and I'm eating more frequently. So I'm not letting myself get into that sort of glycogen depleted state. I'm not letting my stress hormones take over when I'm hungry, that sign of what people call being hangry. So I'm listening to my body every time I feel my blood sugars dipping. I'm eating something, a little bit of fruit, a little bit of dark chocolate, and actually it seems to be working pretty well. My mood seems to be quite even. I can always tell, there's a sort of barometer. The barometer is usually, my reaction to my son's behaviour. My son's quite a challenging child. He's got a few health issues of his own and behavioural issues, and I'm just handling them and not reacting and, not flying off the handle. So that's usually a good sort of telltale sign of what's going on in my own metabolic health. Also, if you don't like too much information, bodily functions and stuff, maybe switch off now, but I'm going to go into that. you know, one of the things that the liver flushing guru Andreas Moritz talks about is how when you clean the liver, you're supposed to go on this vegan diet, you know, that meat and animal protein and eggs in particular are all very inflammatory. The liver doesn't like them. It's constantly trying to detoxify you from those foods. And actually, I've noticed the complete opposite. So, you know, when I was eating an omnivorous diet, okay, I wasn't eating gluten or dairy and I wasn't really eating any refined sugar, but I was just noticing that my stools were pale, they float, you know, I couldn't get them to look normal, I had a lot of gas and wind, but my stools have really, really improved. They're a really amazing dark colour, which shows, you know, that the bile activity from my liver has really ramped up. Even sometimes I notice that when I'm sitting at the working at the kitchen table, sometimes I can hear my gallbladder squirting, which is amazing. I've not heard that for months and months. So it just feels like that end of things, if you like, is working better. I still have to do enemas. I still don't go to the loo. But, you know, on my peristalsis and all the rest of it isn't great. I guess I'm naturally still constipated, but I've been doing enemas every few days for the last 3 years and that suits me. But I've just noticed that the colour is a lot better, and the other day I even noticed a few tiny liver stones in the water, which suggests that my liver is happy and is starting to purge stuff on its own. So that's really amazing. So I'm going to continue and I will update you and let you know what happens. One of the topics about the carnivore diet in the sort of alt health community is about how it's, you know, from evolutionary standpoint, it's kind of an ideal diet and that's how we're supposed to eat. And I'm really quite skeptical about that. I don't, you know, I'm not pushing this diet, you know, ideologically or whatever. I think it's highly up to the individual and their biochemistry and their state of their metabolism as to what they can eat and digest. You are what you digest. You know, it's not just about what goes in your mouth. It's about what your digestive system is doing in terms of, you know, how you extract energy from food. And I don't have a hard and fast line about this, and I don't think that, you know, just because we evolved eating meat and our brains grew exponentially as a result of, you know, cooking meat over fire, you know, I think that's probably unquestionably true, but I don't think that necessarily means that, you know, our digestive systems haven't evolved since those times. But I think that what's really going on is that people's guts are so messed up. We are all, you know, to a greater or lesser extent, you know, we've all got slightly messed up gut flora as a result of, you know, antibiotics, vaccinations, not being breastfed, not eating, you know, nutritious food, mineral and vitamin deficiencies, medications, you know, xenoestrogens in the environment, pollutants. All those things have changed our gut flora immeasurably, particularly I think over the last 50 years. And what the carnivore diet does, it seems to me, is to keep the pathogenic bacteria in check. It keeps it quiet. Whether it eliminates it, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we know so little about the gut flora, really. We know very little about it, that I just think it's speculative at this moment in time. But the reason that it works is because, you know, the gut flora modulate inflammation. And so for a lot of people with chronic and autoimmune issues, they've got a lot of inflammation coming from the gut, and the carnivore diet just, you know, tamps down that inflammation. I'm not sure whether it heals it or whether it just keeps it quiet. I really don't know at this stage, and I'm just going to leave it there because I'm not, you know, a scientist, a biochemist. I'm just a lay person who's interested in this stuff.